Would you be a simp for 3 years for 50 million? After saying goodnight to the goddess I'd been simpering over for the past 3 years, I logged into the game, only to see her using a couple's name with someone else. I immediately took a screenshot, sadly posted it on my WeChat Moments, and announced my heartbreak. Then I couldn't help but chuckle. Thankfully, Charlotte gave me this chance. If I didn't find a reason to end my bathing days, I'd have to keep up this act. Chapter 1. After replying to a few comforting messages, I heartbrokenly put my phone away. Then I pulled out a suitcase and tossed in all the soft, romantic outfits Charlotte liked. After rummaging through my closet, I finally found my long-neglected clothes, the complete opposite of anything soft, exactly the look Charlotte hated to see on men. For these past few years, I'd played the part of the innocent college guy she liked, not only speaking to her gently, but putting on a brave face whenever she was with other men, pretending not to care, only to be roped back in with her slightest hint. The perfect lovesick simp. After confirming the money had transferred to my other account, I happily grabbed my car keys and headed straight to the bar. Amidst the flashing lights and the crowd, I was just about to swap contacts with a girl I'd just met when I was bombarded with missed calls and texts. The most glaring one was Charlotte's message. She never messaged me first, so this was odd. She didn't say much, just asked where I was. I casually replied, "At home." "Why didn't you respond?" I couldn't see her, but I could feel the irritation in her words. If this were before, I would have explained myself thoroughly, afraid of upsetting her. But now I was tired of acting. I didn't reply, putting down my phone, and was about to continue when Charlotte called. I knew exactly what she'd do. She'd say something vague, give me a bit of hope, and keep me on her hook. That's how it's been these past 3 years. But now none of that mattered. With the money in the bank, I was in a good mood. I picked up her call, curious to hear what excuse she'd make. Before I could speak, she seemed to hear the noise on my end and spoke with a tone full of judgment. "Stephen, where exactly are you?" I rolled my eyes at her accusatory tone, but I was committed. Even though it's over, I'm playing the role to the end. I choked back a sob and said, "I saw you playing a couple's game with another guy." In one sentence, I made my reason for being at the bar clear, painting the picture of a heartbroken man drowning his sorrows. I don't believe she missed my post. Otherwise, she wouldn't have reached out. After all, she's got a lot of fish to manage in her pond. She paused, and I could practically picture her pressing her slender, fair hand to her forehead, her brows slightly furrowed, looking at me with frustration. In that weary tone she uses, she said, "Stephen, can't you stop jumping to conclusions? This is exhausting." Again, if this were before, I would have groveled, afraid she'd ignore me, apologizing and promising never to doubt her again. But now? Oh, then I won't trouble you anymore. With that, I hung up and blocked her completely. Chapter 2. Charlotte and I started because of a bet. A boy, heartbroken, came to me and said, "As long as you can stay by Charlotte's side for 3 years without getting dumped, I'll give you 50 million. Back then, I thought either he was an idiot or I was. But when I saw the 30 million deposit in my bank account, I knew I was the idiot. The next day, I gave myself a makeover. I found out Charlotte's major, confessed my love for her in front of her classmates, and looked at her with brave but shy eyes. Amidst everyone's cheers, Charlotte looked at me with an amused smile as she studied me. I discreetly studied her. Her skin was fair, her features strikingly beautiful, and every smile and frown held an enchanting allure. Bold and extravagant, she had all the makings of someone who could turn heads wherever she went. But so what? That's no excuse for her to play with people's feelings. Under everyone's gaze, she added me to her contacts, as if she tacitly accepted whatever relationship we had. Her lack of agreement, yet no denial, became an unspoken acknowledgement in everyone's eyes. Only she and I knew we weren't really a couple. Even the looks from people around us seemed to say, "Look, here's Charlotte's new boyfriend. How long do you think he'll last this time? A week? A month?" I didn't know how long others lasted, but I'm a dedicated simp through and through. I devoted myself to her for 3 years and learned a few things along the way. Chapter 3. Charlotte was a bit of a talent in her own way. Otherwise, she wouldn't have left so many men unable to move on, singing her praises even after a breakup. If you can ignore the various men around her, then with Charlotte, you'd have the perfect girlfriend. Just the right amount of flirtation, a touch of charm, sweetly considerate, and in private, bold and passionate. If she wanted to, she'd remember every word you said and surprise you in unexpected ways. Something those girls who say, "I'm the girl, so you should spoil me," couldn't pull off. But to maintain my dedicated simp persona, I'd act a bit sad and disappointed whenever she was with other guys. It showed my affection for her. A little jealousy here and there added some spice, and listening to her sweet, coaxing words became my form of refreshment. Chapter 4. Since I no longer had to bend over backward for Charlotte, my schedule opened up. After taking a few days off from work, I spent 3 days lying around at home, completely relaxed. The next time I saw Charlotte was at a party. I don't know how one of my friends, who had nothing to do with Charlotte, suddenly became her friend. The gathering, which was initially just my college friends, somehow turned into a reunion of people we both knew from university. Charlotte barely spared me a glance, sipping her drink in silence. When the party ended, everyone seemed to have a silent agreement that I'd handle aftercare for her. That's when I realized I'd been set up. But I wasn't buying it. I didn't look at her once, got up, and left. Everyone there, including those leaving, looked at me in disbelief. "Stephen, aren't you going to take care of Charlotte?" In the past, I'd have begged for the chance to do this. But now I'm no fool. I shot a glance at the one who asked. "And take care of her? Does she not have a home or hands of her own?" The person looked at me speechless, glancing back and forth between Charlotte and me. The atmosphere turned tense. Then, half-drunk Charlotte woke up, calling my name softly. "Stephen, wait. I have something to say to you." Naturally, I agreed, curious to know what exactly she had up her sleeve. After everyone left, she lifted her gaze to me. Her eyes were misty, carrying a hint of hurt, and her voice was tinged with that softness that comes from being a bit tipsy. As she gently asked, "Stephen, are you really leaving me?" If I didn't have a strong resolve, I might have fallen for her act. Oh, she's putting on a show now. I gazed at her, my eyes reddening for effect, my voice strained with barely restrained sorrow. "I'm sorry, Charlotte. I just can't stop myself from overthinking. The only way to make it stop is to leave you." We stared at each other, a seemingly endless exchange of emotion. After going back and forth a bit, we finally agreed I'd call her a ride, and we'd part ways for good. Just as I was finally about to wrap up the scene, the driver called. But then Charlotte said something that killed any desire I had to keep up the act. She leaned against the leather sofa, looking up at me with a slight smirk. "Stephen, is 50 million really worth it?" At first, I was a little surprised. Then I thought, with her background, it was only a matter of time before she found out about the bet. So I wiped away the fake tears at the corner of my eye and replied, "Yeah, why wouldn't it be? Come on, that's 50 million. Who needs love when that kind of money's on the line?" The room fell silent. After a moment, Charlotte stood up, her drunken demeanor gone, and walked over to me. She stood right in front of me, her slender frame and soft pale hand brushing my cheek as she looked up into my eyes. She asked in a cold voice, "So this was your reason for getting close to me?" Annoyed, I brushed her hand aside, looking down at her with the same superior gaze. With a smirk I replied, "And what if it was? So what if I'd been caught? Who says only Charlotte can play with people's feelings? Why can't someone turn the tables on her?" The room grew silent once again. Charlotte's eyes darkened as she looked at me. When I grew tired of the silence, she finally asked me an almost laughable question. She said, "Stephen, did you ever have real feelings for me?" I couldn't help but laugh, ignoring her growing cold stare. I answered, "Since you asked, I'll give you a real answer. Charlotte, I never felt anything real for you. You already know the reason, so why bother asking? These past years, I took care of you properly, simping my heart out. You're an experienced player, and I'm probably just a fish in your pond, never close to entering your sea. Now there's a hole in the pond. Just tell everyone you finally got tired of me and dumped me. Let's go our separate ways, never to meet again. How about that?" I gave her a graceful exit. I thought, given her personality, she'd agree never to see me again. But just as I was about to open the door, she grabbed my hand with a cold laugh. "Stephen, you think you can just walk away? Did you ever ask my opinion?" Her opinion? Of course, I wasn't going to ask her opinion. I flashed a perfunctory smile, turned, and walked out. Chapter 5. To be honest, 50 million is very easy to spend. To avoid Charlotte, I packed my bags the very next day and took off on an overnight flight. I spent the next 3 months traveling all across the country, The only place I didn't hit was Frog Island. I'll go once it's open again. Once I got tired, I returned home, bought a house, and a Maserati, all fully paid for. At such a young age, I didn't rely on anything except my top-notch simping skills. During this time, Charlotte's friends kept reaching out to me, trying to convince me of all sorts of things. Stephen, Charlotte actually likes you. After you left, she's been drowning herself in drinks, feeling depressed. She's surrounded by men, sure, but they're just passing distractions. You're the real one. Otherwise, she wouldn't have stayed with you for 3 years. I didn't let them finish. I was worried I'd lose control and go back to give her a piece of my mind. I interrupted, saying, "So you're saying Charlotte just made the same mistake every woman makes?" Right. That's what I mean, Stephen. You get me," I snorted. "Since you understand Charlotte so well, you two are a match made in heaven. Hope you both stay together forever." With that, I hung up and blocked everyone connected to Charlotte. Chapter 6. But there was one person I forgot to block, my generous benefactor for the 50 million, Bruno. And thanks to him, here I was locked in a staring contest with the young woman in front of me, or more accurately, with a high school girl. Yes, Bruno had pulled me into another secret deal. I'd be disrespecting the 30 million if I hesitated for even a second, but a high school girl as the new target? This felt way out of line. Thankfully, Bruno quickly explained. Apparently, she's his niece, Valentina. Her parents don't care for her much and have practically abandoned her. He's the only one who checks in on her from time to time, but he's only in his early 20s himself. She's rebellious and impossible to handle. He's tried everything, so he thought of me. He said I took care of Charlotte so well over those 3 years and hoped I could adjust my approach to watch over Valentina. Maybe even get her to focus on school. I deadpanned. "Do I look like a nanny to you?" Bruno chuckled awkwardly. "If you can handle Charlotte, then a little high schooler should be a breeze." He was laying it on thick. Next thing I knew, I was in the kitchen, spatula in hand, cooking for Valentina. But I waited until 10 p.m., and this rebellious high schooler still hadn't come home. Sighing, I packed up and went out to hunt her down at the local night spots. Chapter 7. When I found Valentina, I almost felt like I was looking at a younger Charlotte. A noisy group of teenagers sat tangled up on the sofa, smoking and drinking. But unlike Charlotte, she's only 17, a high school kid. No matter how experienced she tried to act, there was no hiding that youthful awkwardness. I leaned against the door, kicking it to break the noise and catch everyone's attention. "Hey, Valentina," a guy teased, "your brother's here to get you." She patted the empty seat next to her with a grin and said, "Come on, Stephen, join us." Valentina clicked her tongue in irritation, glaring at him. "Shut your mouth." Then she looked up, fixing her gaze on me. Her eyes, intense and brooding, held that teenage apathy that gave her an air of impatience. Didn't stop her from looking good, though. The boys around her looked at her with a cautious admiration, keeping their feelings carefully hidden. She was as rebellious as they come. She stared me down, a mischievous smile tugging at her lips, raising a brow as she asked, "You came?" How was I supposed to respond? We'd been at this game for nearly 2 months. It was like cat and mouse. I spent my nights hunting her down in various clubs, keeping up the facade of the concerned brother. I was worn out, trying to maintain my image as the caring older guy. She was even more challenging than Charlotte. If it weren't for the 30 million and only needing to last a year, I'd gladly give her a dose of harsh reality. But to be fair, she wasn't completely unmanageable. Every time I found her, she'd immediately come home with me. That's after I'd spent every night for the past 2 months sitting across from her, giving her endless pep talks. Chapter 8. We walked home in silence. Her in front, me trailing behind. I found it oddly amusing. She put on this extreme rebellious persona, but still held on to a girl's natural pride. Every night, she'd walk ahead of me on the way home. Not too close, but not too far. She seemed casual, yet it was her way of having me guard her. Quiet stretched on too long, so I cleared my throat, searching for a topic. "Midterms are tomorrow, right? Do your best." She chuckled like she'd heard the funniest thing. Exams, I knew exactly what she meant. I'd been her age once too. Keeping up my soft big brother tone, I gently said, "Even if you don't know the answers, just sit through the whole thing. Act like you're doing something." Valentina wasn't having it. She turned around, taking a few quick strides to block my path. The street lights cast dim shadows over her face. I heard her let out a low chuckle, her voice as soft as feathers brushing past my ear. She motioned for me to lean down and whispered, "Stephen, stop pretending. The whole kind and gentle act doesn't suit you." Chapter 9. Honestly, this one's on me. I got too cocky. One night when she didn't come home, I felt tired and decided to give myself a break. Instead of tracking her down, I went to one of my usual bars a bit farther away. I was having a good time when she sent me a message asking where I was. Holding my phone, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of déjà vu. I replied smoothly. I had something to do, went back to my place. I was just about to ask if she'd gone home when my phone chimed again. It was another message from her. "Oh really? Nice biker jacket you're wearing, and those cargo pants. They make your legs look long," smiley face. Since then, Valentina seemed to have found a new source of amusement. She eagerly waited every night for me to catch her. If I didn't show up, she'd send me a photo. In it, a guy casually dressed but with a rebellious look would be leaning against a wall, cigarette smoke curling up to obscure half his face, along with a "if you don't come to get me, I'll send this to all your family and friends." Chapter 10. Truthfully, I wasn't afraid of her childish threats. Sure, I presented myself as the polite and well-mannered one to my family, but my parents knew me well, and my friends also had a pretty good idea of what I was like. I'd figured out by now that Valentina was interested in me, but I wasn't about to give up 30 million. Who needs principles when there's that kind of money on the line? Even if she was a high schooler, I doubted she was some innocent soul. It was probably just a temporary attraction, and I'd never been one to play the hero. As long as she didn't say it outright, I was happy to keep this mutual understanding between us. If it came to it, I could play the same role as I did with Charlotte, be her simp. Once the time's up, find an excuse, take the money, and walk away. So we continued this unspoken agreement, living under the same roof. Compared to Charlotte, Valentina was more sincere. She was like a loyal puppy, bold and unruly on the outside, rough around the edges, but deep down, she'd do anything I asked. In some ways, it felt like she was taking care of me, not the other way around. It almost made my conscience flare up a bit about the 30 million. But hey, what's love compared to money? I got over it quickly. After all, I was genuinely good to her during this time. When it comes to feelings, who's to say who has the upper hand? Chapter 11. I thought I'd quietly finish my remaining time with Valentina, but I couldn't avoid Charlotte forever. One of her friends managed to track me down, begging me to go see her. "Please come see Charlotte. She's been hospitalized twice with stomach bleeding. If this keeps up, it could get serious." I hung up, feeling conflicted. Out of basic human decency, I took a flight back that night. As soon as I opened the door, the smell of alcohol filled the room. Charlotte was curled up in a corner by the bed, looking completely defeated. Still beautiful enough to captivate, but no longer the radiant figure she once was. The sound of the door seemed to startle her. She looked up, and a bitter, mocking smile curved her lips. "So you came." I wrinkled my nose against the smell of alcohol as I walked toward her, unable to hold back my remark. "Charlotte, this isn't like you." She looked at me with hazy eyes, her voice hoarse from drinking too much. "Then what is like me?" I sighed and didn't answer. Instead, I crouched down to meet her gaze and said, "Charlotte, this isn't worth it. This really isn't." During those years I'd spent as her simp, I did feel a bit of guilt. At first, I'd even been fooled by her face, by her sincerity. But when I saw her treating other men with the same sincerity, saying familiar lines to them, I realized it was just her way of keeping her options open. I quickly pulled myself together. Sure, I approached her for money, but I played my part as a simp with dedication. I'd invested 3 whole years into taking care of her, being thoughtful, genuinely giving my time. In this sense, I never felt inferior or indebted to her. Now, seeing her act like I'd hurt her feelings, maybe she was just bitter, thinking she'd had control all along, only to find out I'd played her. Her pride couldn't take it, so I reached out gently, smoothing her messy hair, just like in those 3 years. I gave her one final gentle piece of advice. "Your stomach can't handle this. Stop drinking. Besides, this whole act doesn't suit you. It's over between us. Just because I haven't said anything doesn't mean I don't remember or don't know. In those 3 years, you had your reasons, and I had mine. Don't try to pull me back with excuses. We were just passing through each other's lives. No one really took it seriously. Let's leave things on good terms." Who knows? Maybe we'll even share a meal if we meet again someday. I stood up, ready to leave, but felt her tug on the hem of my shirt. I looked back at her in confusion, only to see her looking up at me, her eyes slightly red. I was taken aback. She'd always been the one above me. I'd never seen her from this angle. It was the first time I'd seen her so vulnerable. Maybe it was the alcohol talking, but I felt like her words carried a hint of pleading. Stephen, what if? What if I actually meant it? Chapter 12. Does she meant it? A carefree, fickle spirit like her tells me she actually caught feelings? This delayed confession of love is almost laughable. Why should her belated, tangled emotions demand a response or a cost from someone else? So I didn't reply. I turned and walked away. The next time I saw Charlotte, she was in my hometown. She looked much better than the pitiful state she'd been in before. She was leaning against her car, wearing a smoky gray trench coat over a crimson dress, smoking, her cigarette glowing in the dusk, a tiny ember against the night. I remembered the first time I learned to smoke. It was when I saw her bring another man into her place. That night, in the cold, I lit a cigarette. The harshness stung my throat, but it cleared my mind, letting me stand there, watching the lights go on and off in her apartment. Lost in my memories, I snapped back to reality when Charlotte saw me. She put out her cigarette and walked over. Before she could speak, I cut her off with a cold tone. How did you know where I live? This house was bought with that $50 million. Only my parents knew about it. She looked at me with those affectionate eyes, like I was some precious treasure in her hands. Her lips parted, avoiding the question. Stephen, I missed you. Ignoring her small talk, I kept my tone sharp. Why are you here? My words must have seemed distant, because she gave me a tense smile. Stephen, can we find somewhere to talk? Talk. Of course. Sorry I'm busy. If there's nothing else, I'll be going. I didn't have time to waste on her. Valentina was waiting for me at home for dinner. I turned to leave, but Charlotte grabbed my arm. Annoyed, I snapped. Charlotte, what exactly do you want? She squinted, studying me. Where are you going? Let me drive you. We can talk in the car. It won't take up your time. Unable to shake her off and not wanting to cause a scene, people passing by had already started whispering, watching us in our little tug of war. I relented and got in her car. Once inside, the atmosphere turned awkwardly tense. Finally, I broke the silence. What do you want to talk about? She kept her eyes on the road, her hands delicately wrapped around the steering wheel, pale and smooth as jade. For a long time, she didn't speak. Just as I thought we'd drive in silence, I heard her voice, probing but cautious. Stephen, if there hadn't been that $50 million, would you still have approached me? I paused, then sighed, rubbing my temples in exhaustion, wondering what she was getting at. But I still answered honestly. Charlotte, without that $50 million, I don't think we'd have crossed paths in this lifetime. I don't understand why you're here looking for me. If it's about your pride, then I apologize. You were only ever a mark to me, and you've met men like me before. I even cleaned up after one of them for you a couple of years ago. You've never lacked men or simps like me, though I'll admit I was a rather good one. Perfectly humble for 3 years. I was good to you. You should know that yourself. Our motives were just different. You're not usually so petty, so why come and disturb me after all this time? I went on for quite a while until my throat was dry, feeling I'd made my point clear. But my little speech didn't seem to affect her at all. She stopped the car at a red light, turning to look at me with a rare seriousness in her gaze. Those eyes I once liked were filled with genuine emotion. She said to me, Stephen, it's not about pride. It's that I've fallen for you. I can't live without you anymore. I know I was wrong before, but I'm not letting you go. I laughed dryly, speechless. What is this? The player returns, and love wins. But I'm no fool. Why would I want her overdue sincerity? She either ignored my silence or misunderstood it. I heard her say, Stephen, this time I'll be the one chasing you. I'll make it up to you for what I owe. Chapter 13. Back home. I sat at the table, staring at the blocked contacts on my phone, lost in thought. Before I got out of her car, Charlotte had asked me to remove her from my block list. Naturally, I refused, but she just smiled and said, if I can't reach you, I'll just come find you at home. I know her well enough. She meant it. She'd really show up. I was contemplating this when I felt Valentina lean in from behind. What are you looking at? I jumped slightly but quickly composed myself, setting the phone down and smiling at her. Nothing. Why'd you just get home? Where'd you go messing around this time? Valentina ignored my teasing. She looked down, her gaze steady and quiet, and asked an unexpected question. That sick friend you went back to the city to check on. How are they doing now? She was talking about Charlotte. Though I was surprised at her interest, I replied, I don't know. We haven't been in touch. Oh, really? Her tone made me uncomfortable, so I couldn't help but ask, why are you being so passive-aggressive? She laughed a little. Nothing. Then she leaned down, wrapped her arms around my waist from behind, and murmured into my neck, I just missed you. I chuckled, turning to look at her. That's when I noticed she'd changed her look. She'd trimmed her hair, no longer covering her brows. Her forehead and striking brows were fully visible, making her face even more captivating. She wore a white shirt loosely buttoned. From my angle, I could catch a glimpse of bare skin, strikingly pale. I raised an eyebrow, amused. What's this? I filled my voice with playful sarcasm, but she didn't seem to mind. Instead, her dark eyes sparkled, hints of unspoken mischief glinting in them. Stephen, after tonight, I'll be an adult. Her focused gaze caught me off guard, and I didn't even realize when she got so close. I missed the chance to pull back, or more accurately, I had no intention of resisting. I let her kiss me. In the haze of it all, a fleeting thought crossed my mind. Oh, so today's her birthday. Well then, let's consider this a birthday present. Chapter 14. That I didn't remove Charlotte from my block list. First, because there was no need. Second, because I couldn't let her use that as leverage over me. At first, she tried calling me from different numbers. I ignored them all. Then she started sending texts. I didn't respond. This went on for a while, and just when I thought she'd given up, she showed up at my door. When I opened the door and saw her, I was genuinely surprised. I hadn't expected her to be so persistent. She leaned against the door frame, one hand blocking me from closing the door, and the other clutching her stomach with a pitiful look. Stephen, it hurts. Great. She'd driven herself to the point of getting sick again. Luckily, Valentina wasn't home today. Otherwise, I could already imagine the headache of them running into each other. I took her to the hospital, got her settled, and sat in the chair by her bed with a sigh. Charlotte looked at me, a slight smile on her lips. Stephen, do you remember that one time I got sick like this? You were so scared you stayed with me for days. Even scared the poor hospital security guard when you finally lost your patience. She spoke gently, reminiscing about our past, but to me, it was just a story with no emotional pull. I interrupted, saying, Sorry, I forgot all about it. My words cut her off, and a look of hurt flashed across her face. She forced a weak smile. It's okay. From now on, there is no from now on. Charlotte. I looked at her coldly, making my stance clear. There won't be a future for us. Stop saying and doing these pointless things. Whether she understood or accepted it, I wasn't sure. We didn't say much after that. When she finished her 4-drip, I stood up, ready to leave. Charlotte stopped me and asked, Will you come back? I was about to answer when Valentina's voice message interrupted me. I answered, and her soft voice came through the speaker. Why aren't you home? Where'd you go? I'm out getting some things. I'll be back soon. After I hung up, Charlotte stared at me, anger simmering beneath her calm facade, though she tried to hold it back. Stephen, was that? I didn't let her finish, responding bluntly. Yes, it's exactly what you think. I didn't bother looking at her expression after that because it didn't matter, and I didn't care. Chapter 15. When I got home, Valentina was already seated at the table, waiting for me. I noticed her expression seemed a little off and asked, What's wrong? She looked up at me, her tone flat. Who did you go see? Her passive-aggressive tone irritated me. After a long day, I didn't have the energy to spar with her, and I didn't feel like making up a story. So I said simply, You already know who. Valentina might be young, but she's no fool. In fact, because of her background, coming from a wealthy family where her parents didn't care for her, she's always been extra sensitive to others' emotions. Simply put, she's perceptive and not exactly innocent. That kiss the other night, she probably did it because she knew about Charlotte. She also knew about the $30 million arrangement with Bruno, even if she never mentioned it. So I knew this day would come, just didn't expect it so soon. Hearing my answer, Valentina put down her chopsticks and looked at me, her tone deceptively calm. It felt like the quiet before a storm. How much did my uncle offer you to be with her? I didn't hide it, 50 million. 50 million, she repeated, clenching her hands until her knuckles turned white. I continued eating, not sure what she was thinking. Maybe she was comparing why she was 30 million while Charlotte was 50. Women, after all, have a natural urge to compare. So I shrugged and said, if this bothers you, if you can't get over it, I can leave now. I thought I was being considerate, but my words seemed to set something off. She looked up, her expression colder than ever, yet still restrained. With that familiar playful tone, she said, Stephen, is that what you think of me? No matter what happens, your first thought is to leave. Faced with her question and her dark expression, I sighed. One problem solved, and here comes another. Guess you really shouldn't be too greedy. However much money you take, you'll pay for it with drama. I decided to be upfront with her. Valentina, you know exactly what our relationship is and where it's going. Otherwise, you wouldn't have held back all this time, right? She opened her mouth to explain, but I stopped her. And besides, I'm much older than you. You have your whole life ahead of you. I can't, and I won't. Hold on to your youth while you grow up. Love and life aren't the same thing. We're too different. And let's not forget, you only wanted to mess around with me at first, right? The first few lines were the polite explanation, but that last bit was what really shut her up. I didn't know how she found out about Charlotte. Maybe she'd asked her Uncle Bruno. Maybe she, like Charlotte, used money to dig up information, or maybe she and Charlotte had even met and talked. All just guesses, but I knew she understood me better than Charlotte ever did. After all, I'd been pretty unfiltered around her. She knew her own intentions hadn't been pure from the start, so this relationship was one I'd never take seriously. I thought I'd made myself clear, but Valentina kept holding onto my hand. She looked at me stubbornly, holding back her tears, still that defiant, captivating girl from the first day I'd met her. But she knew me too well, so there were no please stay. She knew she couldn't keep me, so she tried to sound casual, even as her voice hardened. Stephen, I admit I didn't have good intentions at first, but I do want to be with you now. If you won't wait for me to grow up, then I'll grow up on my own. If you won't teach me, then I'll learn on my own. When I'm ready, I'll find you. Seeing her so determined and resigned, I couldn't help but ruffle her hair. All right, but I won't be waiting for you. I won't wait for anyone. I hope you make it in time. I'd been burned before. I'd never wait for anyone again. She didn't respond to my cold words. The conversation ended on a sour note. In the end, I told Bruno I couldn't keep going with this arrangement, but I still took $1 million. After all, I convinced Valentina to calm down and promised she'd go to college. Truthfully, I couldn't say no to the money, no matter how guilty I felt. Chapter 16. I moved out of Valentina's place with a fresh $1 million in hand and lived carefree for a while, until I ran into Charlotte again at my hotel. Turns out money really is powerful. She must have found out I'd ended things with Valentina. But this time, she didn't try to intrude. Instead, she orchestrated various coincidences, daily breakfasts delivered, flowers hanging on my door, planned outings without my input, and countless gifts and silent companionship. Even though I hadn't agreed to any of it, she'd stuck to her word. This time, she was the one pursuing me, paying back whatever she thought she owed. Her world no longer revolved around a crowd of men. Now, it was just me. In her world, she even tagged along when I went to the bar. Didn't stop me, just sat and watched, staring down every woman who tried to approach until they left. I muttered, "You're nuts," and she just laughed, saying, "Funny, I never knew this side of you." Her smile left me speechless. Even on lazy days when I'd wear a plain t-shirt and beach shorts for a morning jog, she'd be there chatting with the older ladies around, listening intently as they praised us as the perfect couple. I seriously thought she'd lost her mind, until she shielded me from the car that had lost control and was heading straight toward me. That's when I realized she really meant it. Chapter 17. Luckily, we were standing off to the side, and the car had already slowed down, so she wasn't seriously hurt, but she still ended up in the hospital for quite a while. She didn't notify anyone, didn't tell a soul, leaving me to take care of her out of guilt. Though taking care was a loose term. She didn't make me do much, just peeling fruit and bringing water. The nurse handled everything else. She would reach out with her bandaged hand, lightly touching my face, and say, "Stephen, I'm just glad you're okay. If something happened to you in front of me, I'd never forgive myself." as if she truly treasured me with all her heart. I pulled away from her hand, not replying. I didn't want to say anything harsh while she was lying there injured, so I waited until she was discharged. She continued her slow, subtle approach, infiltrating my life like a frog slowly boiling in warm water. From my new coworkers to friends and family, every angle, she managed to charm them all. Everyone in my life ended up switching sides, saying, "Stephen, are your standards that high? You can't see how amazing your girlfriend is." It left me frustrated, couldn't yell, couldn't fight back. I could only treat her with cold indifference. But over time, even I started to feel like she belonged there, right by my side. One day, after picking up her call out of habit, I sat there calmly thinking for 2 minutes and realized how frightening it was. But thankfully, something happened that brought me back to my senses. One day, by her deliberate orchestration, I accidentally met her parents. She made a solemn vow in front of them. She said she truly loved me, that she felt guilty for what she'd done. She wanted to give me a happy life. She wanted to give me everything she had, and hoped they would accept it. She even took her parents and me to draw up a financial agreement, intending to transfer half of her assets to me before marriage. I stood to the side, saying nothing, just feeling a chill. Some people live in their own world for so long that they never consider anyone else's thoughts, even if they're sincere, even if they're in love, treating you as a treasure. I could never trust someone like that. Chapter 18. That I didn't want to say anything more to Charlotte in her current state. Words were meaningless. I left that very night. 3 days later, when the hotel doorbell rang, I thought Charlotte had come back. But when I opened the door, it was Valentina. She wore a long black dress, soaked from the rain, dripping all over. Surprised to see her, my first words were telling her to come in and take a hot shower so she wouldn't catch a cold. She walked in silently, cleaned herself up, and when I handed her a woman's bathrobe, her whole body went tense, suspicion radiating from her. Amused, I ruffled her hair. "What are you thinking? It's from the hotel. Can't you see the logo?" Finally, she accepted it, letting me towel dry her hair. She stayed silent the entire time. Only then did I realize how long it had been. She must have finished her college entrance exams. No wonder Charlotte had introduced me to her parents a few days ago, so that was her plan all along. To Charlotte, it seemed I was just some sort of trophy, something she could show off, compared to others. How much true love anyone had used, they probably couldn't even tell. The atmosphere was heavy, so to lighten things up, I tried joking with Valentina, but she didn't respond. Instead, her eyes followed my every move as if she had something on her mind. I teased her. "What are you staring at?" "What? Me, a general off to battle never to return?" She still didn't respond. Instead, uncharacteristically, she moved over, sat on my lap, and almost forcefully took my face in her hands and kissed me, just like last time, and again. I didn't push her away. Come to think of it, I've rarely refused her. After the kiss, she remained silent. She stared at me for a long while, then said, "Wait for me," and left, leaving me completely bewildered. Chapter 19. Not long after Valentina left, there was another knock at the door. I thought she had come back, ready with a joke, but the words died in my throat. Standing there was Charlotte, looking worn out and hurt. She looked like a patient who had lost all hope, slowly asking, "Stephen, is there nothing I could do to make you look at me again?" I almost laughed because I'd asked her that very question once. Back then, she'd answered me calmly. "If you want to stay by my side, you should know what to ask and what not to ask." I wanted to throw that line back at her, but seeing her pale face, I held back. Instead, I simply repeated my old stance. "I told you, there's no point in wasting your time on me." She gave a bitter smile and closed the door, walking toward me, like that time she pretended to be drunk. She reached out, lightly touching my face, and looked up at me. Only this time, her tone was wistful, with a hint of nostalgia. "You turned me down once." I didn't understand until her thumb brushed my lip. I felt a sting. Valentina had bitten me earlier, leaving a small cut. And then I realized what Charlotte meant. During our first year together, she once tried to kiss me, and I'd instinctively pulled away. After that, she rarely kissed me. I thought she'd just lost interest, so I hadn't thought much of it. Turns out, she must have run into Valentina on her way here. I brushed her hand away, not wanting to have this kind of conversation with her, but she stubbornly put her hand back. I was about to lose my temper when she released me herself. She looked at me with a self-mocking smile, like a terminally ill patient still struggling, and asked, "Stephen, is there really no chance at all?" I said nothing. Her gaze was filled with sadness. "But look at how far we've come. How far we've come." I hadn't intended to argue, but couldn't stop myself from asking, "What do you mean, how far we've come? Do you mean your one-sided decision to win me back? Or the tricks you use on every man you meet? Or that you showed up to meet your parents with me in tow without even asking me?" With the same haughty attitude she once had with me, I looked at her coldly. "Charlotte, I didn't give you an answer before because you got hurt in my place, but that doesn't give you a free pass to guilt-trip me. Let's be clear. Just because the player has a change of heart doesn't mean I have to love you. I didn't love you then, and I'm certainly not going to now." A heavy silence filled the room. Charlotte looked at me, silent for a long time. Then she laughed. She laughed until I thought I saw tears in her eyes. I thought she'd gone mad. After a while, she stopped laughing and gave me a smile I knew all too well, the sly, mocking smile she wore when she had something planned. "Stephen, you really don't budge, do you?" "Fine, fine, fine." I admit it, I lost. With each fine, her voice grew softer, filled with a mix of emotions. I was confused. Is she finally done pretending? Her sudden shift in attitude left me unsure of her intentions. I was about to ask her when her lips parted as if to say something more, but my phone rang, interrupting everything. I glanced at the caller ID. It was Bruno. A bad feeling stirred in me. I answered, and Bruno's voice was urgent. "Stephen, you need to talk some sense into Valentina. She's acting recklessly. She'll get herself hurt." My heart sank, and I instinctively moved to leave. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw Charlotte. I stopped, uneasy, looking at her. She must have heard Bruno's words because she swallowed whatever she'd been about to say. I cursed silently. My reaction had been too telling. In her state, if I rushed out, who knows what she might do to stop me. But thankfully, Charlotte only looked at me with a calm, focused expression. Time seemed to stretch. Finally, she asked, "Stephen, is she really that important to you?" I thought about it, then nodded. Another stretch of silence, almost agonizing in its slowness. Finally, I couldn't wait any longer and opened the door. As I stepped out, I heard her voice behind me, like a quiet farewell, saying, "Oh." Her words filled me with relief. I didn't want to think, and headed straight to the location Bruno had mentioned. Chapter 20. When I found Valentina at the address Bruno gave, she looked up, scowling at me. "What are you doing here? Get out of here." Did she think I'd actually listen? Of course not. I grabbed her arm, dragging her out, and pushing her into the car. Then I slapped her. The shock left her speechless. "Valentina, you're an adult, not a child anymore. Coming from a wealthy family doesn't mean you can keep acting reckless. You know better than anyone what lines you shouldn't cross. Are you trying to throw your life away? Do I really have to spell this out for you?" I unloaded on her, just like all those late nights when I'd lectured her like a nagging parent. But the girl who'd once been so stubborn and rebellious, who'd looked so defiant even when I walked away, now looked up at me, eyes red with tears, filled with hurt. But I couldn't wait any longer. "Stephen, you wouldn't teach me anymore. You wouldn't wait for me. You don't want me anymore." Her words made me sigh, softening my anger. It wasn't hard to guess. She'd been shaken after seeing Charlotte. Bruno had mentioned on the phone that Valentina was suddenly set on getting 80 million, 50 from me and Charlotte, and 30 from her own deal. She didn't want to ask her family for it. She'd wanted to take her time, but seeing me with Charlotte's parents must have triggered her. So she'd panicked, connected with some shady people, and taken a risky path. I sighed, looking at the tear-streaked face of the girl who still held me so close in her heart. I felt a pang of regret. She wanted to prove she could grow up fast, all because I told her I wouldn't wait. She was willing to do anything to grow up, but her impulsive actions only highlighted her immaturity. Yet the sincere look in her eyes made my heart burn. To be someone's whole world like that, even if it's childish, even if it's reckless, it reminded me of my own youth. Once upon a time, I'd longed to find someone willing to give me their all. So, Stephen, what's the harm in teaching a kid how to grow up? Everything she doesn't know, doesn't understand. Couldn't you teach her? Why not wait for her? What could it hurt compared to those 3 years? She's doing her best to close the gap between us, giving me all of her love. So what's there to demand? As if finally convincing myself, I leaned back into the seat, chuckling softly and ruffling her hair. She looked up in shock as I reached over and pressed a kiss to her forehead. And I heard myself say, "Valentina, I'll keep teaching you how to grow up. So are you ready to keep learning?" Her eyes widened in disbelief. "What did you say?" I smiled. "I said I'll wait for you to grow up. So are you ready to face the world and keep that same heart?" She looked at me, eyes bright and intense, then finally broke into a long-awaited smile, responding loud and clear, "Of course I am. Just wait, Stephen. I'll catch up to you soon." "All right. Then hurry up and grow. Catch up to my time and experience. And I'll give you all the love I have to give." Chapter 21. I moved back into Valentina's home. Despite her rebellious phase, she's never lost sight of what matters. Her grades were decent. After some consideration, we applied to a good enough college, and I became her study buddy. The next time I saw Charlotte was at Valentina's wedding. This girl was impatient. After graduating, she practically begged me to marry her, afraid I'd slip away. On the day of the wedding, Charlotte showed up alone. I'd heard she'd changed a lot over the years, thrown herself into work, her old friends were long gone, and she no longer had those close male friends. But none of that concerned me. After the ceremony, she came over to us. I thought she wanted to talk to me, but she ended up pulling Valentina aside, whispering something I couldn't hear. When they returned, Valentina handed me a necklace. It was the same one I'd bought for Charlotte with my first savings during my years of simping. Compared to her lifestyle, it was nothing. But that day, Charlotte looked at me with a strange expression. Back then, I hadn't noticed. I was too focused on playing my role. Looking at the necklace, I shook my head, telling Valentina, "Throw it away. It doesn't mean anything." She hesitated, then set the necklace down on a nearby table. Taking her hand, I led her to our new home. Even though she's younger than me, we have a long life ahead, and I think it will be a happy one.